All right, should be able to see my screen now. So the first thing I just want to do, if you would write in the chat, this is just a quick do now. What is something you're looking forward to in the summer? What is something you're looking forward to in the summer? So just write your response in the chat. It's kind of connected to what we're going to look at today. All right, let's take, I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, as long as it takes. Yeah, me too. Let's hope that happens. Seeing friends, yeah. Look forward to moving. Oh, of course, yeah, Nathan, of course you're going to be moving, yes. Not having to wake up early. How early do you wake up, Saita? What is early? I wake up at 5:15 every day when the sun comes up. Having fun, yes, I agree. Having a great time, definitely, right? Driving my bike, yes, awesome. Hanging out with family and friends, yeah, because we haven't been able to do that obviously for so long, right? With social distancing and all that stuff. Visiting family. Angeli, where are your family? Are they? I think you have. Is it in Florida your family or some of your family? I can't remember. Maybe you want to write or unmute yourself. Going out with family, relaxing, traveling.
Could you repeat that?
Who's that? Is that Angeli?
Yeah.
Angeli, yes. I was going to say, you said you were going to go and visit some family you haven't seen in a long time. I know you had a cousin. Was it in Florida, your cousin? I can't remember.
Yeah, one was in India and one's in Florida.
That's right. Are you going to go down there to see them?
I don't know. It depends on the whole COVID situation.
Yes, yes, of course. Um, Hopefully things will, I mean, they keep improving. You know, the vaccines are coming in now. More people are taking it. The cases are going down. So hopefully we'll all be able to go where we want to this summer. I know I want to go to England in July. At present, it's kind of difficult to do because I would have to get tested before I go, tested when I get there. I would have to quarantine for 10 days when I get there. So, it's kind of like not a great scenario, but I'm hoping things will improve by the time I actually go. So we'll see. All right. So yeah, lots of things to look forward to, right? This has been a tough year for everybody with the pandemic, where especially you guys at home, a lot of the time not being able to see your friends. Remote learning, I know, has been very difficult for a lot of you. And hopefully things will be better when we come back in September. Okay, so next up, um, we're going to look at another piece of satire, right? And we're going to try and analyze this piece together. Assignment 6.4 was the one where the wealthy teen example, analyzing that one. Some of you did it. What I've noticed when I was grading some of your work, a lot of you were on the right lines. You kind of understood what was going on, but sometimes how you were structuring your paragraph or your argument wasn't kind of how I wanted it. And sometimes you weren't giving enough details of something. So that's just something that I want us to think about today. Okay, so I posted in the chat this article. You can actually see it on your screen here. It's called Public School Teachers Looking Forward to Summer Break After a Long Year of Watching Netflix. Okay, now this is a satirical, I hope, news article. So what I want us just to do is to read the article. Okay, if you can see it on my screen, you could just read it on the screen because it's not a very long article. Or you can read the PDF that I put in the chat. You might have to scroll up a bit. I'll try and put it back in. And then I just want you to write in the chat, just in general terms, what is this article about? What is this article about? Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can put this back in the chat, and then if you can just read it and just say, what is this article talking about? So let's take 5 minutes. 5 minutes on here. Okay, and I am just gonna come out and put it back in the chat. Hold on. I can figure out how to do that. Just bear with me a minute. So I have it in the chat so you guys can see it right at the bottom. Okay. Conversation.
You're not sharing your screen, by the way.
I know, because I, yeah, I know. I'm trying to reattach this the article because you have to scroll up a little bit to see it. So I just thought I'd put it at the bottom here. Here we go. Okay, so I just put it back at the bottom there, so you can open that PDF, or if you prefer, you can read it on my screen. Oops, there we go. All right, let's take another 3 minutes. What is this article, just in general terms, about? All right, so Marcus has written. Very good. Thank you, Marcus. Hi, Christian. So, Christian, I know you've just come. We're just reading this satirical news article. You can see it on my screen. I've also posted it in the chat. And then we're just going to read it. And then I just want you to think about, what is this article about? What's it talking about in general terms? All right, let's take another minute and a half. You're just going to write in the chat, just like a few of you now writing, what is this article about? All right, let's take another 30 seconds. You've just come, just reading the article on the screen. It's also in the chat about public school teachers looking forward to summer break after a long year of watching Netflix. All right, so let me just read some of the responses. So Marcus says it's an article about teachers have been stressed out this entire year with remote learning. The only thing that's been keeping them going is watching shows on Netflix, right? It's a satirical article, Nathan says, about teachers being stressed out from the school year, been watching television, tired from doing Zooms. Teachers don't want to go back to work after spending most of their time at home watching Netflix and relaxing, Saita says. Yes, that's a good point, right? At the end, it says thousands of teachers have indicated they will campaign to keep schools closed next year as well, or at least until they run out of things to watch on Hulu. Melissa says it's an article, it's a joke about how teachers during remote learning are actually not really teaching, right, but spending their time watching Netflix instead of teaching. They want a break from that whole year of remote learning where they will get the chance to go out even though they are watching Netflix. Yeah. Ashley, similar thing. The article is about stressed teachers. The only thing keeping them going is watching shows on Netflix. Christian, struggles of online learning. Yes, good. About the Ralph says it's about the pandemic, about making people get lazy to the point where they can only think of doing one thing. Yeah, that's a very good point, Ralph, right? People get so lazy to get into a routine and they can only do one thing because that's what they've been doing the whole year. Good. Teachers needing a break. Yes. I mean, we get that as well just from the title, right? Teachers being stressed. Yes, Diamond, exactly. All right, not just students that get stressed, teachers as well. All right, so good. So this is what the article is generally about, right? We've all had this hard year, but this article is specifically about teachers and looking forward to summer, just like students look forward to summer. But in this case, it says it's because what they've been doing for a year is just watching Netflix. Right. So, does anybody watch Bridgerton, the show that's talked about in the article? Has anybody seen Bridgerton? I haven't, so I don't know if it's any good. Did anybody watch it? Let's say.
I think my mom is watching it
Oh,
currently.
your mum is watching it, Nathan. Does she like it?
Yeah. She said it's good.
It's good. Let's say you like it as well.
Huh?
Litza, this is for Litza. Sorry. Litza, you like it? Yes, yes. I've heard good things about it. I tried to watch the first episode and I couldn't really get into it. So maybe I'll try again. As far as I'm aware, it's set in England. Is this correct? Yes, set in England. Okay. So that's what it looks like. I think it's on Netflix, I believe. All right. So let's start this kind of analysis just by thinking about what or maybe who is the author satirizing. So if you could just write down in the chat either a person, a group of people, society as a whole, a system. Remember, when we think about system, we think about things like a government, for example. Is it a behavior, something people do, or is it a belief? So write down, let's take a couple of minutes to write down what you think this particular article is satirizing. All right, I see a lot of people saying a group of people. Group of people which are the teachers, yeah. Anybody have a different response? Group of people. A behavior. Ralph, what behavior is being satirized here? I think you're definitely onto something. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself or write in the chat. What behavior is being satirized? Belief that COVID could stop you from going outside. What do you mean by that, Nathan? Can you explain a little bit more?
I mean that people believe that that with COVID you cannot go outside at all. but you could have go outside, but all you have to do is wear a mask. And they use that as an excuse not to go outside. But there's a virus going around.
Oh, right. Yes, because it says right in the third, where is it? Yeah, in the third paragraph, this teacher, third grade teacher, Patricia Peasley, she's a made up character. She says, there's COVID outside. We can't go outside. We have to stay indoors and continue watching our streaming services. Yes, they're kind of like they're using the pandemic or COVID as an excuse. So, yes, we could say it's a belief. I didn't even think of that. That's a good point. So Ralph says the behavior that's been satirized here is watching Netflix all day. Yes, you're right. That is a behavior, right? We could say it's kind of like, laziness, I suppose. So a lot of you said a group of people, and that group of people being teachers. Yeah. So definitely here we could say it is a group of people. And if you remember, sometimes when we get a character in one of these articles, right? We have this third grade teacher, Patricia Peasley. Um, they're made up people, right? So she's a maid. She's not actually doesn't actually exist. She's not a real person, but we have to think about who does she represent, right? What is she representative of? And as a lot of you are saying, she represents a group of people, teachers in general, right? Good. All right, so we could say a group of people, we could say a behavior, we could say a belief. Good. So then let's think about what is this, excuse me, what is the purpose of this satire? In other words, what is this article trying to do? Is it trying to make fun of something or some people? Is it trying to criticize, which basically means to point out problems or issues with something? Or is it trying to expose, to show the truth about something? So let's take a couple of minutes, write in the chat, ridicule, criticize, or expose, and then I'll ask someone maybe to explain what they mean. Okay, so Gerardo, you say it's exposing. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself or maybe write in the chat. What do you think is being exposed here? What is it showing the truth about? Melissa says, and Ralph, same for you, right? What's being exposed here? Melissa, you say to ridicule teachers to make it seem they don't do any work during remote learning. Good. Marcus says to criticize, to point out the problems that they have. What problems do they have, Marcus? What problems do teachers have? What does it mention in the article? I don't know if you want to write or you can unmute yourself. And while you're thinking about that, Nathan says to critique, which is great words, right? Critique, which kind of means to comment on, to criticize, how teachers are too busy watching Netflix rather than doing work. Yes. So that's a good element, right? Criticize. But I do want to think about this exposing. So maybe if Ralph or Gerardo, if you could write or unmute yourself and say, what's being exposed here? Thank you, Marcus. They're not dealing with the struggles of remote learning very well. Yes, so you're saying that it's criticizing teachers because teachers are not dealing very well with remote learning. Yes. I know we often think it's only students that this is a problem for, right? But actually, a lot of teachers actually find a hard time with this. Thanks, Gerardo. It's showing the problem that teachers are having of not getting a break. Right, yeah, so it's kind of exposing, right? Showing the truth about, um, maybe it's showing the truth about teaching, maybe the teaching profession, right? You know, we often think maybe that teachers, they're hard at work 5 days a week, working on all these lessons, grading all this stuff, giving live lessons, And that's like the public perception of what teachers are doing right during this time. So this article maybe, Sarado says, is kind of exposing the fact that that's not actually what teachers are really doing, right? They're actually, instead of creating lessons or trying to help students, they're actually maybe just watching TV on the couch all day. So good. So yeah, when you're thinking about these kind of satirical articles, and you're thinking about what is the purpose of it, um, you can use, as long as you can explain why it's ridicule or criticize or expose, then that's fine, because normally all of them are doing, you could just say, are doing elements of all of these three. We could say of this article that it's making fun of teachers, right? It's ridiculing them. We could say it's criticizing or pointing out the problems or issues with remote teaching or remote learning. And as a couple of you said, we could also say it's exposing or kind of like showing the truth, really, about what teachers are actually doing or how remote learning is actually going on. Something that I haven't really brought up before, and I just want to mention it briefly, is sometimes we think that there's we kind of classify satire into two types. Right? On the one hand, we have what's called Horatian satire. Right? And that's kind of like, it's very light-hearted. It's kind of just like poking fun at people or at the foibles or like the things that people do, the behavior. So you can see on the left-hand side that cartoon, right? You've got two people, and one's on his computer, the lady's on her phone, and the guy says to the woman, "After all our online chats, I'm happy to finally meet you in person." And the woman says on her phone, "Me too." Right? So this is kind of like a very light-hearted kind of piece of satire. What's it making fun of, that cartoon? Anyone want to unmute themselves or write in the chat? What's that cartoon making fun of? What's it satirizing? Oh, thank you, Jeremy. Bye. Thank you for letting me know. Have a good weekend. So we're looking at that cartoon just on the left-hand side of the screen, the Horatian satire one. What's it making fun of? What's it satirizing, that one? Anybody want to write in the chat or unmute themselves? Online meetings, yeah. Making fun of people not being able to socialize, yeah. I think it's kind of more making fun maybe of people's addiction to technology, right? You got these two people, and they say, like, "I know we've been online for so long, and now we get the chance to be in person." They're actually they're in person now, but they're still on their devices, right? So this is kind of just a light-hearted kind of just like gently making fun of these people for being on their phones, right? Yes, talking about how people can't be face to face anymore. Exactly, Ralph. All right. So that's Horatian satire, right? You don't have to remember these terms, but it's kind of an interesting way of thinking about satire. And then on the right-hand side, we have what's called Juvenalian satire, and this is something that is more serious. The tone is more serious, right? Sometimes a lot of sarcasm is involved with Juvenalian satire. So we have this picture here, iTunes, right? And again, it's about technology, our addiction to technology. But here you can see these people, they're kind of chained to their devices, right? And it's almost like they're in prison or something. So this is a lot more serious tone to it. So that's what we call Juvenalian satire. Now, as I said, you don't have to remember these terms. If you want to impress your 10th grade teacher by talking about Horatian satire, then you should. But it's not important for what we're doing right now. But when we're thinking about this article, right, the one about public school teachers, would that be more Horatian, light-hearted satire, or Juvenalian? What do you think? Is it a serious kind of, making fun in a serious way, or in a sarcastic way, or is it more light-hearted? So maybe we can write in chat if we think Horatian or Juvenalian. Let's just take a minute to do this. And then we'll finish up with thinking about the satirical device. Horatian. Thank you, Saita. Saita, I think you're right. Why do you say Horatian? If you want to unmute yourself, or everyone's very shy today, or you can write in the chat. Okay, so Harada, you say Juvenalian. Saita says Horatian. Anybody want to say why they think it's Horatian or why they think it's Juvenalian?
I think it's Horatian because it's not really being bitter about the fact that teachers are doing more are watching Netflix more than they're doing work.
Yeah, sometimes it's a case of tone, right? I think you're right here. I think you're right, Nathan. I think it's kind of like just making light-hearted fun of teachers, right? It's nothing bitter about the fact that they're just watching TV rather than doing work, right? I mean, we could imagine a piece of satire that would be very like sarcastic and very bitter, but that would be a different kind of article, I think. This one, I agree, is more light-hearted, just kind of like fun, just like making a joke out of the whole thing. All right, but as I said, that's not really not important to know those two terms, but it kind of helps us maybe when we're trying to think about what is the purpose, what is the author trying to do? Are they really trying to expose something? A lot of expose when it's trying to expose is kind of like Juvenalian because they're making a serious point, but not always. Okay, so I just want to finish up. I know we're nearly out of time. Which device do we think is being used in this article? So we can write in the chat, and maybe we can have a few people writing. Do you think this
Can I
is?
say it?
You can, but maybe wait like a couple of minutes, Nathan, and then you can say, okay? Just let people have a chance to write or in the chat. So if you think it's situational irony or verbal irony, sarcasm, understatement, hyperbole, or parody. Let's take 2 minutes. I know we're running a little over time. Situational irony. Thank you, Saita. Let's see if we can get some more people writing in the chat. Okay, what do you think? It's parody, or remember, parody is where you kind of imitate or copy something. Hyperbole, where you exaggerate. Understatement, where you make something seem less important. Sarcasm, where it's the opposite of what someone means, but with like an edge to it. Verbal irony is like sarcasm, but it doesn't necessarily have that edge to it. And situational irony, where there's something that we don't expect to happen, basically. So I know we have more than 2 people here. Let's see if we can get a few more people answering. Thank you, Ralph. Situational irony. Thank you, Gerardo. Situational irony. Marcus, situational irony. Yes, good. Situational irony, Angeli. Thank you. All right. Let's start. So, Nathan, why do you think it's sarcasm? Where's the sarcasm here?
I think it's sarcasm because it's saying how teachers are working hard, watching Netflix and watching television. That's why I think it's sarcastic.
So, I wonder, but remember with sarcasm, it's where you say something you don't mean as well, right? But you say it in a sarcastic way.
Yeah, like I was saying how teachers are working hard, but in reality, they're just watching television.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good, yeah, that could be a good example of sarcasm, right? It says like they're working hard. Well, they're not actually working hard, right? So the meaning is different to what is being said, and it's with a sarcastic voice because there's a little edge to it. Good. How do you say? Because you would, yes. So that's sarcasm, and then if we take situational irony, right? Where we wouldn't expect something, Gerardo says you wouldn't expect them to not have a break and to be doing work all day, but instead they're watching TV. Absolutely, right? Good example of situational irony. We would expect the case to be that teachers are actually working really hard. In actual fact, what we find in this article, or what this article says, is that teachers are actually not doing anything at all, right? They're just watching TV. Good. I feel we could also say maybe that this has hyperbole in it. Does anybody pick up anything that seems very exaggerated or over the top? And maybe any of the language or anything that happens here? As an example of hyperbole.
Can you say that one more time?
So, yeah, sure. I think we could also say that there's hyperbole in this article as well. I think that we could say that some of this is exaggerated, it's over the top. So, what in this article could we say is exaggerated, or maybe talking about specific language or about things that happen? Where can
maybe
yeah,
saying that you've watched all the shows on Netflix?
Yeah, I'm almost out of Netflix shows, right? Yes. This person who's been watching so much Netflix, they're almost out of shows. People's talking about being stressed out. Yeah. Does anyone know what PTSD is?
Yeah, post
Right.
traumatic stress disorder.
And normally we associate PTSD with, soldiers who have been in war, for example, right? And that trauma that they get from that. Um, so that's kind of an exaggeration, right? These teachers don't really have PTSD from being on Zoom calls with like third graders, right? So that's an exaggeration. All right, so this is kind of how we can structure this, right? Taking a few of the responses that people have been saying, right? So the article, public school teachers looking forward to summer break after a long year of watching Netflix. We could say ridicules the behavior of teachers during the pandemic, right? We could have said a group of people. I went with the behavior. The author, you notice how specific I'm being, right? I'm talking about what the behavior is. I'm talking about ridicule. Next, you want to say the author is using which device? Well, situational irony. And then I've got to explain why it's situational irony, right? Because the reader would expect teachers to be looking forward to a summer break after an exhausting year of teaching. Instead, they've been at home eating mouthfuls of popcorn and watching Netflix all the time. Got to provide evidence from the text. A lot of the responses that I've been looking at from this week's assignment, they've been very good. You've been like perfect with the type of device being used and what the author's trying to do, but you've got to give that evidence from the text, right? And then I finished by saying the author is also using hyperbole, remember, if you spot more than one type of satirical device being used, you should say that in your paragraph. So I said it's also using hyperbole to satirize teachers by exaggerating their responses. Again, I'm explaining why this is hyperbole, and then give an example from the text. One teacher describes the experience as grueling and giving her PTSD, though really she's just been lazy for the year, right? Okay, so that's the kind of analysis I'm after. Any questions before we go? I know we're a little over the time limit here. Any questions?
No, not really.
Okay, so if you guys remember, this assignment is due today, and also the one